I meet with my clients all day, pretty much every day. I have Fridays off and partially, and then Sundays, of course. And I love meeting with my clients. I love teaching classes. I guess I'm one of those lucky people. I love my work. And so I want to share it with people. And I'm going to tell you that I am often slapped on the back of the hand through articles that my colleagues unfortunately hope will get to me at some point, or that I'll find out about it. I'm told by them that I'm doing the wrong thing and teaching lay people how to use homeopathy in this fashion using protocols. And I say, let's see, I'm not going to swear, but I'm going to say, go away, because I couldn't care less. Because I remember when I was a mom and I was desperate for protocols. I was desperate to not have to stick with classical and look for that gut-wrenching, far-fetched constitutional. I'm going to tell you a little story that I think is kind of interesting. Years ago, when I was in Toronto, I was studying with Dr. Ramakrishnan, and then for several years, and my colleagues or my friends were not friends, excuse me. They didn't start out as friends. They became friends. But homeopaths from all over the world would come and we'd all convene and meet in Toronto. And it was fabulous. Loved it. The first few years there were about 350 of us, and there were homeopaths. Many of them were doctors, because throughout the world, doctors are what homeopaths, homeopaths are often doctors in other countries. So in Ireland and Colombia and Pakistan and India, and they came from all over the world, and Ireland, and it was really fun. We would all convene. And these doctors, classical homeopaths, and some of them, of course, were lay practitioners as well. We were all trained in classical, and in order to be in the class, you needed to have been in full-time practice for 5 years, and you had to prove it. So it was great, because you were with people who were on the same plane as you. Some of them knew more, some of them knew a little bit less, because I think I'd been in practice for about 7 years at that time, full time. And it was really fun. And so these homeopaths were traveling from all over the world. We met every other month for long weekends, and we would study in these post-grad courses, and it was a blast. And what was interesting that I noted after I got to know many of the homeopaths, they became friends. We had lunches together, we had our dinners together, and then we go our separate ways, go off to each of our respective countries, and then reconvene a month and a half later or so. And of course, everyone was there to learn their craft in more depth. Everyone had the goal to be able to treat their patients or clients with a great deal of skill. And of course, that's lofty, and it's a beautiful thing, and we all loved it. But there was a secondary interest, and I couldn't help but notice it. I was actually in the same boat. I felt the same way as all my colleagues / student friends. The second reason was that everyone there, after using classical homeopathy for all those years of study, theory, memorizing aphorisms, knowing how to navigate that repertory inside and out. In those days, they were just starting to come up with programs, but most everyone was using the repertory by hand. Having memorized the top 300 homeopathic medicines, we all put a lot of time and effort into it, but interestingly, they were there, and so was I to a certain degree, to do something else. They wanted to find out. They wanted to seek out. They wanted to learn what their constitutional remedy was. It was like looking for the Holy Grail. What is my constitutional? They used to think. They used to say. I did too. What is the medicine, the one medicine that will take me to nirvana, will carry me through my life, will take care of all the problems that I have, all the conditions that I've got, all of those rolled up from my inheritance and the suppressions that that I placed on myself with all the drugs and the surgeries and the superfluous this and the superfluous that. What is my constitutional? That, my friends, and I've talked about this before, but it's worth repeating. That, my friends, is the evasive, long-suffering cry of classical homeopaths. And so I don't begrudge them. There are some really darn good classical homeopaths, but classical homeopathy is very complex, and we often never find that constitutional. And so that's why I teach what I teach. I teach what others don't teach. I teach what is easy to learn. I teach mothers and grandmothers. I'm able to teach children. That's what we're doing right now. We're on lesson 3 already for our kids course. And so I can teach what I know to children. What does that say about mothers who are even more motivated, most likely, and grandmothers who are equally as motivated, and those who perhaps don't have children, but have pets and livestock? So that is what we do here. I teach you the distilled version of classical homeopathy. We're going to distill it right down. And so tonight we're going to my Materia Medica, as we have been doing. Here's the Materia Medica. You can purchase it on my site if you like. But as I always say, you can find lots of good information in Materia Medicas in other forms as well, in other authors who have written Materia Medicas. And you can look up this medicine. And the medicine tonight is all about stuffy nose. I have a stuffy nose. And if you remember it like this, it's easy to remember these medicines if you play with the words and you play with the memory of it. So the medicine is Kali-sulf. Now, said properly, it's Kalium sulfuricum. And the short version is Kali, Kali, sulf, Sulph. Now, as you know, we can use the full Latin name, Kalium sulfuricum, or we can use the shorter version, Kali-sulf. And it happens to be a cell salt. Now, there are 12 main cell salts. There are other cell salts that others have discovered, but the main 12 cell salts that Dr. Schussler organized and put together back 100 years ago, this is one of them. And this is the way you're going to remember it. It's stuffy nose, regardless of the cause. The stuffy nose could be as a result of allergies, could be from drinking milk. So you don't have to say, well, it's from drinking milk, so mine must be different. No, is it stuffy? Then you at least consider this medicine. There's usually yellow associated with it. So the mucus can be yellow, but there's more than that. The sclera of the eyes can be yellow. Inside, the white of the eyes can be yellow. Interesting, isn't it? So we've got a lot of yellow going on here. Sometimes if there are skin conditions, the skin is yellow. So let me see if I'm remembering everything that can be yellow. Sticky mucus, the discharge is yellow and the mucus is sticky. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means that the person is trying to draw it out of the sinus cavities or up from the throat, and it's sticking. And then when they can finally get it up, they can see that is the texture. Don't be grossed out. I talk about this stuff all day long, and it's good for us to understand how our bodies work. So it's thick. It's also great for a cold. So it doesn't have to be from just allergies. It can be certainly as a result of the tree buds blossoming, or at this time of year, the autumn leaves falling. That could be a mold intolerance. It could be, we don't necessarily need to know the etiology or the cause or what's doing it. That can be useful. We start with the medicines that are the most obvious, such as if the mucus is sticky and yellow, then we can try Kali-sulf. And if that doesn't act, it doesn't do enough good work, then we look a little bit further. Then we look, well, it does happen every time I have dairy. Indeed. Now we use a medicine that's specific for dairy, perhaps in conjunction with, we can use them in tandem. If the Kali-sulf is starting to act a little bit, then let's take advantage of it. and maybe push it a little bit further. We can also use other medicines for dairy intolerance. So what potency do we use? Well, Cali-Sulf as a cell salt is most often known to be used in a 6X. You'll find it more readily. You can find it often at health food stores. Highlands carries it, but I think Highlands is no longer carrying it. I mean, I've got a lot of these cell salts that Highlands has carried, and I think that we're running into trouble, as I recall. I should know this. Perry, would you mind checking on that and telling me if Highlands has this? Cali-Sulf and Cali-Sulf 6X by Highlands. Just tell me if they're still carrying it, because I think there was something that was going on. I want to keep you abreast of all of that. If you happen to be a student or a client of mine, you can certainly buy this medicine from OHM Pharmacy or Pharma, OHM Pharma, if you're a student or client. And you'll also get discounts there. Now, boron, Perry, maybe you could check on boron. I don't think they have it in a 6X. No, sulf, Cali-Sulf, S-U-L-P-H. Cali-Sulf. You can find this readily, and I will also tell you that I've said this before, that I've always used the cell salts generally in a 6X, except for, there are a couple exceptions, but we won't go into all of that now. But generally speaking, the cell salts are in 6X. And then I spent those 8 years, consecutive years in Calcutta. Highlands has it? Okay, Highlands has it. And I know that, I've purchased from Amazon. I certainly do that. But someone reported to me the other day, for probably the 5th time I've heard this, that Amazon, if they don't have that potency, they put a sticker on it and write anything on it. And I actually have had that happen once to me, but I still purchase from there. I've not had any trouble with that, because what they did is they put a sticker of the medicine that I was purchasing on top of a different medicine, and I just ended up using it for the medicine that it actually was. I don't mind owning extra medicines. So you can certainly get it on Amazon, but if you have a health food store near you, sometimes you see this at Walmart. And so the Banerjees, let me get back to that story, we're using these cell salts in a 3X. And not because they say that it's wrong to use it in a 6X. Prateep Banerjee explained to me that's just what we use. So when I learn something from a source such as the Prasanna Banerjee Homeopathic Research Foundation, I bow to that. I've had plenty of years of research, and not research, but study, research too, in homeopathy and teaching it 34 years, 33 years now. But it doesn't compare to Prasanna Banerjee's family and his father and all the other doctors that they have working there. So now I use Cali-Sulf in a 3X if we can get it for my clients. And if we can't, then we use it in a 6X. So it's pretty easily found, as I said, at OHM. So since they're a client of mine, they can get it there. But I have plenty of clients who are in far away countries, Dubai and the Netherlands and South America, many places in South America. And so sometimes it takes so long that they don't want to bother getting the remedies from OHM, and they buy them from other sources. So, and sometimes they're not available. So either a Cali-Sulf 3X or Cali-Sulf 6X, in my estimation, pretty much they'll work the same. And for a chronic stuffy nose, I would use that twice daily. How often? Until it's better. When do you stop? You stop when it's much better, when you've seen great improvement, or you've seen absolutely no improvement over a period of a few months, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, or you see something going wrong. And it's pretty clear that it's as a result of taking medicine that was uncalled for. So that's the way we're going to look at all medicines, these homeopathic medicines. So you take it for as long as you need it. If it's done, it's done. If it comes back again, you resume it. And if it's doing no good after 6 to 8 weeks, no good. Don't expect that the sclera of the eyes, the yellow is going to be completely cured, Don't expect that the stuffy nose is going to be completely done. Expect that you're going to see a little less intensity to the symptom, lasting for a shorter period of time, and that there'll be a larger space between each episode. And that, my friends, is how you measure whether or not these medicines are acting. Don't expect that they're going to work within a day or two, although they can. Now, when might they work in a day or two? When we have perhaps an acute condition, such as a cold. So if your nose is stuffed up and there happens to be yellow mucus and it happens to be sticky, that could be reason enough to use this. And then in that case, for a cold, I might use it more frequently. Twice a day is not really enough unless the cold is super mild. I might use it 3 times a day, maybe 4 times a day for a day or two until it starts to back off. If you see no shift, forget the 6 to 8 weeks because that's for chronic conditions. If you see no shift, no improvement from using Kelly Self 3 or 4 times in a day over a period of, say, 4 or 5 days, and there's no improvement at all, in other words, not less than, you want to see less intensity, lasting for a shorter period of time and a larger space between each episode. If you see those happening, then you know it's acting. If you don't see them, at least one of those 3 magic markers, as I call them, showing up, then it's likely the medicine's not going to act. It's not going to be right for you, and you have to move on. No problem. No worries. I don't want you to worry and think that just because you got it, it didn't work this time, that homeopathy is of no value. Nor do I want you to think that, oh, I'm no good at this, because sometimes it takes 2 and 3 or sometimes even 4 tries. I work with clients every single day, all day long. I oversee about 50 cases daily. And I will tell you that I am surprised at how often I get it wrong the first time. Not for very long, because I'm using protocols for many conditions. So we might have a stuffy nose plus some arthritis, plus some, let's say, diarrhea, as well as bloating. And if I cover all of those in different medicines and the Kelly Self doesn't act, then I don't worry about it. What I count on then is that I've chosen correctly for the arthritis, the diarrhea, etc. So that's another advantage for using these protocols, because it's very likely that you're going to see some improvement in one of those areas. That's what we want. We want to see some improvement in 1 or 2 or 3 of those areas. So I'm looking at Materia Medica of Massachusetts, Newberry, Ohio. Hi, Heidi. All righty. Let's see. I found time and time again. There is not just one. Hello from Nevada City. We really appreciate your teachings, and you love what I teach. I love doing this. Hi, Ashley. Oh, Ashley. Hi. Oh, it's so nice to see everyone. I know my constitutional, but it doesn't fix everything. Absolutely. The Banerjee protocols for chronic issues are helping me to heal. Thank you very much, Mary Ruth. That is key. That certainly we can, if you've got a nice, simple constitution, your blonde hair and blue eyed, I'm kind of really grossly over calling this one. But if you happen to fit pulsatilla perfectly, then great. Beautiful. But if you have other works to do, then by all means, you want to use the protocols as well. Could it be similar to postnasal drip, but without the yellow discharge? It's got to be yellow or sticky or stuffy. So those are the 3: yellow, sticky, stuffy. And if there also happens to be yellow of the skin or yellow sclera, that can be very useful as well. Let me make sure that I've covered everything that I want to cover in here. Oh, when there is skin like a nettle rash, there can be burning. And that's a call for the use of Kelly Self. And often there is a yellow discharge from the eruptions. So watch for that as well. Yellow discharge from acne. Can it be helpful for stuffy nose and nasal allergies without any yellow or sticky mucus? It potentially could. I don't usually have a yellow mucus with allergies. Now, when someone says I don't usually, don't look for this must be there in order to fit. If it comes occasionally that there's yellow mucus, that's good enough. if you also have the stuffiness and the stickiness. So don't look for perfection in fitting every single rubric or every single characteristic or every single symptom that I'm describing here. I'm giving you those possibilities here. If you've got all of them, then it's a beautiful dead ringer. Highlands has been out of it for a while. Interesting. So what you want to do then is go to a place that carries Highlands that has not run out of it. Okay, and Sherry just said she picked up some from Amazon. It's been out since the virus came into town. Yeah, you bet. Slowly coming back into town. Our local stores have been out of most of Highlands cell salts for a while. Yeah, I bought a lot of, I always purchase boron from Amazon. That's good. I'm happy to hear it. You know that if you purchase boron directly, though, I mean, you can certainly buy it through Amazon, but if you purchase boron directly and you go to check out, when you check out, put my name, Joette, and you will get a discount. And Liberty Veritas. Would it be helpful for skin conditions with yellow pustules along with graphites? Yes, it could certainly be useful for that. What's closest to 6X? Would you pick 6X or 9X? Washington Homeopathics doesn't seem to carry 6X. Try 3X. 9X, oh, I don't know. I don't use 9Xs. I know some people do, but I don't use it a lot. Highlands 6X is out of stock. Highlands will still makes Kelly Self. We carry it at Tap Roots. There you go. TAP Roots. We carry it, she says. So that must be I don't know if it's a site or a store or an online store. Taproot. TAPROOTS. Yes, Highlands has discontinued selling a lot of remedies. And when I call them, they say they're discontinuing items that don't sell well because they are having trouble getting the raw ingredients. No, I did not know that. I am not as in touch with Highlands as I used to be. Hi, Joette from Ipswich, Massachusetts. We just visited Sally Fallon on her farm in MD in Maryland. She uses homeopathics for her animals. You bet. She gives out very good nutritional information about raising your own food. You bet she does. I think I'm still on the board of the Weston Price Foundation. Sally Fallon is an old friend of mine. When to use Graphites versus Cali Self for skin issues? When you read Graphites, it's a little more in depth. Often there's cracking skin, worse in the winter. There can be a heaviness of the body and overweight. So there's other aspects to it. I have no compunction in trying both. Not at the same moment, but in the same schedule. So one is taken and then the other one is taken about 5 minutes or so later. Are the 3X only in liquid? That is all I found. I would purchase it in liquid. I like liquid remedies. Okay. Kelly sulfuricum, Kelly sulfa cell sulfur stuffy. Okay, that's right. Thank you very much for putting that up there for me. And now let me get back to my mighties here. I've benefited greatly from classical homeopathy. That's all that was available. But now I'm benefiting from your wonderful teaching. That's great to hear, Jeanette. Listen, I benefited from classical homeopathy too, but holy cow, I don't like pokey. I'm sorry. I like speed. I want to see things move quickly. Not only as I learned homeopathy, I wanted to learn it faster. I wanted to see it act faster. And here's the key, ladies and gentlemen, I want to be able to teach it. I want to teach people how to use chronic conditions or chronic remedies for chronic conditions. I couldn't do that with classical unless they were willing to go to classical homeopathy school for 3 years. So again, I am planning on putting together an academy that will integrate the best of classical and the best of the protocols so that when you don't have a protocol, you know what to do next. Still, it's not really classical. I'm not going to be teaching classical in the traditional way with constitutionals, etc. But I used to teach at a college level homeopathy course, and I taught it mostly to nurses. And what I found most frustrating is that I could teach them under the classical modality. In one semester, I taught them how to treat acutes. Well, that's fine and dandy if that's all you've got. But you know what humanity suffers from most often is our chronics. And so they would ask me things like, well, that's really interesting if I get a bee sting. Well, that's really fascinating if I have a laceration or I sprain my ankle, but I don't have any of those right now. What I have right now is food intolerances. What I have right now is eczema. What I have right now is chronic anxiety. So now what do I do? And it was very frustrating. So that's another reason I don't like classical, is because it doesn't take it to the most important place on earth. What's the most important place on earth, folks? I'm going to leave it up to you. Somebody tell me. My mighties know, and many of you on Facebook Live know too. Yes. Tell me if you know the most important place on earth. Yes. House. Home. House. The house is close enough. Home. Home. Where does this belong? Does this belong in the chambers, in the offices of classical homeopaths? Okay, they can do it too. This belongs in, how do I make this clear? In the home. Every household needs to know how to use these medicines, not just for acutes, but for chronics as well. All chronics, food intolerances, allergies, rheumatoid arthritis, osteoarthritis, osteopenia. I could keep going. Chronic headaches, growing pains in children, chronic strep infections, measles, mumps, rubella. That is what we need, folks. That's where I'm going with this. And that's where I want you to go with it. That's why I want you to embrace this and love this as much as I do. And I know that you do. Okay. Who is great? Who's besides your Materia Medica? Whose is a good one? Phatak, Phatak. Let's see. I've got some of them here. How can I remember them quickly enough? Franz Vermeulen. James Tyler Kent, too old fashioned. We need to update that information. Too old. Let's see. Phatak, Boynenhausen. I've got a lot of them. There are a lot of good ones. So, yeah, Robin Murphy's. I like his too. Someone said that. Preach it, Joette. You bet. So excited to be a Mighty member. Thank you, Mighty members. And thank you, Facebook Live people. It's just wonderful to see everyone. I love you all. I'm going to, I just tried putting Joette at checkout, but it did not work for discount from Amazon for boron. No, it's got to be, it can't be through Amazon. It's got to be directly boron. Boron, it's shop.boron.usa.com. Say it again. Shop.boron. USA.com. But you can find, I'm sure you find if you just start digging around in there. All righty, folks. God bless all of you. Mwah. Got to go and teach a class. Love you. See you next week. And keep studying and keep spreading the word. Good night, everyone. Bye.